Hi, I'm Miki Olshansky. I founded Elgan to focus on neonatology related indications. I've been focused on neonatology for almost 20 years, since 2003, first in the medical device space, and since 2008, pharma biotech. Elgan develops drugs for neonates. We focus on unmet medical needs within neonatology, specifically mostly focused on premature infant indications. Today, 1 in 10 infants are born premature. Prematurity is growing worldwide, mostly in US and Europe. We're about roughly 10% of our babies annually are born prematurely. Currently, it's not about survival. The real goals and challenges are about improving outcome, reducing morbidities, and allowing them a really good quality of life. It is a condition that's devastating for everyone. We spend over $26 billion annually in the US alone on just immediate care post-birth. Every complication can turn into a lifelong disability for these infants. There are several very high unmet medical needs in this population. There's huge forces at hand to try to improve their outcome. There's a lot of challenges in developing drugs for infants, specifically for premature infants even more. Which is the right drug? What is the right excipients who are safe for that indication? What's the right dose? The infants are moving targets. Even the placebos are exponentially improving. So choosing the right design, getting a consensus around it, both in Europe and the States at least, choosing the correct endpoints and getting a very robust clinical development is a huge challenge. And that's why it's rarely done and requires a lot of specialized understanding for this population. The results, more than 50% of the drugs used today for children are off-label, and more than 90% used in neonates have no adequate substantial data. It is changing these days. Over the past 8 years, the International Neonatal Consortium has been working on improving that and looking, I believe, for a much brighter future for our children as far as data for the drugs that are being used on them. Elgan's focused on several rare neonatal indications. Our lead program is actually for their GI, for intestinal malabsorption, going now into a second phase 3. Our younger program is the eye program, which is for preventing damage and vision impairment due to retinopathy of prematurity. ROP is the leading cause of blindness in children worldwide. When we talk about preemies, this is one of the biggest unmet medical needs for preemies today. It's the number one specialty care that they have in childhood. When they're born prematurely, their eye vessels and the retinal layers are not as developed as they should be. There's a very short window of opportunity to overcome that prematurity. And so it is really about taking advantage of the time until they reach term age and getting them into normal vision. We know today that the pathophysiology of ROP is very different from adult retinopathy pathologies. For preemies, the eye vasculature has not reached the periphery of the eye. And so it is really about stimulating that development and reaching full functional vision without damages due to ischemia and inflammation, and really tissue distress due to that underdeveloped vasculature at birth. Very rarely you see retinal detachment and full blindness in that population, but it's very, very prevalent. Up to 70 to 90% of very young preemies who do have some vision impairment due to retinopathy of prematurity. There is no approved treatment for preventing or curing ROP There are two less than ideal emergency procedures that are used today in cases where there are imminent vision loss for these babies, but they, in many cases, only provide temporary remission. It is really about preventing, and that's sort of a consensus between everyone focused on this etiology worldwide, both on the regulatory side and on the clinical side. The goal for treating these babies is to prevent the vision impairment. And for preventing vision impairment, we'd like to stimulate normal retinal and blood vessel development on one hand, while reducing oxidative stress, inflammation, and followed neovasculature that forms in these conditions. The solution is a very infant-targeted nanoemulsion therapy. It comes as eye drops. The excipients are all ones that are safe for premature infants. Very high penetration profile with, on one hand, stimulation for development of the eye vessels and the retinal layers, while reducing and sort of suppressing the distress of the tissue while we're trying to reach for normal development. In our preclinical work, we've shown both, on one hand, much improved coverage and development of the vessels within the eye, while reducing and suppressing or completely eliminating neovasculature and other pathologies associated with retinopathy. Clinical development for anything for premature infants is really sort of a stepwise challenge. We started and we actually concluded recently our phase 1 study. We're now moving into first safety cohort for preemies, already really imminent, hopefully, and followed by a very robust phase 2 program to really substantiate clinical benefit within the very quantitative endpoints who are agreed upon with regulators and with the clinicians worldwide. We perceive it's a very lucrative market opportunity. We've had quite a bit of background and experience, pharmacoeconomics for premature infants. When we look at premature infants, we're looking at anyone born at 32 weeks or under. There's about 150,000 in each continent today, with about 50,000 population of substantial vision impairment due to ROP of the very, very premature, the under 28 weekers. So even with that population at hand, it's a very, very lucrative market opportunity, which we believe will be substantiated both in terms of the clinical benefits and associated pharmacoeconomics. We're very fortunate in terms of both our internal team focused on neonatology for more than 10 years, as well as our regulatory support, which has been working with us for many, many years, and mostly our clinical leads, both Professor Anat Lowenstein from Ichilov, who's the lead for our eye program, and Professor Van Halgever, who's the director of the Emma Children's Hospital in Amsterdam, who has been working with us for over a decade. In addition to our very late stage program in intestinal malabsorption and our retinopathy program, we have additional pipeline programs for neonates. So we really are a neonatology company. Thank you.